Hey, brother teacher here. Do you know what determines one's success in a street fight or encounter? Of course, I'm speaking of the defender. God forbid we get into situations that were caused by us because we can't control our temper and or our mouths, or we're in a bad environment or situation that we put ourselves in. Hopefully that's not you. But for the most part, when we try to walk the straight line in life, try to respect our fellow man and so forth, as long as we're doing that, sometimes, every once in a while, there's that other element that exists in our society that have no respect, no regard for human safety, for human life, human respect or courtesy at all. These individuals oftentimes seek out some prey, or sometimes they just want to, I guess you can say, for some reason, fill their oats. That's an old expression. But anyway, whatever the case may be, how to survive a situation where you may have to protect yourself, and what determines your success in most instances is not based on you having fighting experience necessarily. It's not based on you having self-defense classes, or being a military person or former military person, or even being a martial arts practitioner. All of that does not necessarily equate to a conclusion in your favor in a street situation. But what does in most instances is your state of mind, your presence of mind. We want to make sure that we are aware of our environment, that we see it as serious when we cannot avert that situation, when we have done all that we could do possibly by speaking our way out of the situation. And that's where self-defense begins. I don't want any trouble, I don't want any problems, and we try to leave if we possibly can. But I would not advise anyone to try to physically turn and run away, because that does not always work in your favor. It just depends on the situation. If you have distance and time on your side, it may be feasible, but understand, comprehend this, that everyone can't run, especially if you are a person who has injury, or if you are a senior citizen perhaps. Sometimes we have to stand our ground. Sometimes. If it comes down to it peradventure and we have to defend ourselves, presence of mind is the first thing. You have to have the will to live, the will to survive, and want to go home as safe as possible. So, I would advise everyone, it's almost imperative nowadays that you learn some form of self-defense. You don't have to take a karate class or a martial arts class that's going to cause you to be engaged in that thing or that activity for the next 20 years. That's not for everyone. But at least take some form of self-defense classes to get some foundational things down. Distance, balance, watching body language, a person's intent, if you will. When you're standing in front of someone, oftentimes if you're not an aggressive person, or you don't have that aggressive nature, if you're really passive, or if you're a timid person, you have to learn how to be untimid at certain times in your life. I'm sorry. When it comes down to it and you have to protect yourself, your timidness has to take the back seat. And it's survival, especially if you have a child, especially if you are defending your family or family member, and it comes down to that. You just have to pick up your big boy pants or your big girl panties and stand. I'm sorry. Also, irrespective of any training that you may have had in self-defense or martial arts, understand this. It's always going to be an element of surprise. You don't know who the person is standing in front of you, on the other side of you. You don't know what their skill level is. You don't know what their intent is. You don't know if they're on medication or drugs. You don't know if they carry a weapon. but understand fundamentally some vital spots on the body. Understand that. Understand what your tools are that you have available to you. Now again, let's take it from the standpoint of someone who does not have formal training. Let's look at it from the standpoint of me just talking to an average individual. You may not do conditioning exercises per se, but I would advise you to have some sort of conditioning training, at least walking stairs, or a stairmaster, or a treadmill, and doing push-ups to strengthen your upper body on some level. You follow? Now, if you don't have someone to go to for self-defense classes per se, take it upon your own self. Get with some family members and go over some classes with one another. Now, here are some things that you can do, but don't forget. Let's not dismiss this mindset, the will to live. That's going to be the core thing. Again, if someone is barking at you, saying that they're going to hurt you, or if you feel like someone is going to attack you, you have to have the mind to defend and offend. If you have to, protect and attack until the person submits, and then leave the situation. You don't have to try to be a hero, okay? You don't have to be this punisher type of person. Once you fail the person, if peradventure that happens, if the person hits the ground and so forth, you don't have to continue to stomp and punch him and beat him with a stick or what have you. Leave the situation and call the appropriate authorities. It's really that simple. But again, you should not be the person who caused the situation in the first place. I hope that's not you. So, understand this. I tell my students this all of the time. We train thousands of times for the one time that we could potentially have to defend ourselves in a street situation. That's it. Even if you study martial arts or don't study martial arts, you should practice on a regular basis. I mean, this is life 101. It really is. So now, piggybacking on what I just said, you never want to use what you trained with unless it's absolutely positively necessary, because that's going to determine the outcome of what I'm about to say to you. So, know the vital targets. Now, we can go over this physically in front of my class with you in a future video. I've done some of these before. It's over 2,000 videos I have on here. There are some there. You have to do some searching, but I'm going to do something in the future for you, just for your benefit. But understand this. Eye gouges. I was taught at a very early age, if they can't see you, it's difficult for them to pursue you. Do you get what I'm saying when I say don't use it unless it's absolutely necessary? Because that's something that you're going to have on your conscience. That's something that you may have to deal with legally down the road. So self-defense is not a game. It is self-defense. Make sure that you are actually about to be harmed or your life is threatened. Take a finger, stick it in the eye. You can take a thumb, stick it in the eye. These are gouges or pokes to the eye. We're not trying to beat this person down. We're not trying to be the best fighter in the world. We're trying to walk away so that we can go home to our families. Okay? Eye strike. This is what we call a spear hand. Okay? Single finger or thumb to the eye. Another one is the Y to the throat. This is the Y of the hand. Attack to the throat. It's one of the things that you can't really protect here. No one expects this. Everything is going to be based on the element of surprise. So when you can, you just move right under the throat, and oftentimes it just gets the person off of you. It doesn't not necessarily immobilize them. Sometimes you can make the person even more aggressive. I just want you to understand that. Palm strike under the nose, under the chin. Palm strike. This is the palm, the bulb of the hand, briskly straight out under the chin or the nose. Watch the body language. Walk away if you can. Don't stay there. Okay? For men, a knee to the groin or the genitalia. Ladies, and even guys, to the genitalia. I would not suggest trying to stand toe-to-toe with anyone trying to box them. That may not end up in your favor. Okay? The side of the neck. This is what we call a pseudo or a shuto, a knife hand. This is the fleshy part of the hand. You strike to the side of the neck, You can do it inside, what we call inside, or you can do the reverse side. These are things that you have to experiment with, but while you're experimenting with a friend or a family member, make sure that you take caution not to hit them with moderate to extreme force, because blood supply goes through the arteries, the major arteries in the neck, to the brain. Also, the temple. Temple sits right outside here. You can daze an individual and potentially knock the person out. You can hit them. I'm telling you, easy strikes here in this raking motion like this with the palm of the strike. Here, even with a hammer fist like this to the temple. Here, you got. Now, that's just a few things that I wanted to hand to you. The reason I left the body out is because, especially for women, that's usually ineffective trying to punch a man in his upper body or the trunk of his body. You have to have a little bit of training, a little bit of skill, more skill. But these are vulnerable areas to the head, to the part of the head here. Neck here, I said throat, neck here, under the nose, under the chin, and to the eyes and the temples. I just wanted to share some of that with you in this particular video, just by talking to you in what I call karate from my desk. All right, not in a formal setting, as it were. So, if you have any further questions on self-defense, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Be safe above all. Train slowly. Walk through those techniques, those motions. Here, here, here. Maybe even here. Temple again. Remember that. Understand this too. Practice, always practice as close to reality as possible so that you don't have a false sense of security. I tell my students all the time, when you're going through techniques, especially up close techniques where we do some joint manipulations, if you will, walk through them. Don't punch past me because I'm your teacher. Don't punch past your classmate. We go through a slower motion. Punch at me so it seems real to me as possible, and later on we put on the gear and you can touch me a little bit more. But for the most part, don't hit one another as hard as you can, because if you hit your training partner, chances are they may not want to train with you again or be discouraged to train at all. I love you. God loves you. You take care. And so on.